When we think of the Palace of Versailles, we imagine grandeur, opulence, and beauty. It's the symbol of absolute royal power, an architectural marvel that dazzles visitors from all over the world. But behind its gilded gates and sparkling halls lies a dark history, one that textbooks conveniently skip over. Ready to uncover the untold secrets of Versailles? Let's dive in. Let's start with the basics. Versailles, what we now think of as a palace of splendor, was originally built in 1624 as a humble hunting lodge by Louis XIII, but his son, Louis XIV, the Sun King, transformed it into the ultimate symbol of his reign. With its 17,000 acres of manicured gardens, over 700 rooms, and a court of more than 10,000 people, Versailles became the epicenter of French absolutism, a shining monument to excess and control. But behind the gold and glass, there's a hidden side to this story, one that reveals a much darker truth. Let's talk about the price tag. The cost of Versailles was staggering, over $2 billion in today's money. While Louis XIV lived in unimaginable luxury, the rest of France faced deep poverty. Peasants, already burdened by crippling taxes, poor harvests, and constant food shortages, were left to foot the bill for the king's opulent palace. And as the wealth of the monarchy grew, so did the anger of the people. This growing inequality would ignite the French Revolution, an uprising that would shake the foundations of French society and put an end to the monarchy. It's no surprise that the construction of this palace, built on the backs of the suffering masses, would eventually fuel the flames of revolt. But Versailles was more than a palace, it was a political weapon. By building Versailles far from the capital, Louis XIV effectively isolated his nobility. They were no longer free to rule their own territories. Instead, they were compelled to live at Versailles, trapped in a world of elaborate court rituals and constant competition for the king's favor. Power was no longer about leadership, it was about who could impress the king the most. Endless parties, extravagant balls, and performances were designed to distract the nobles from their duties and ensure their loyalty to the crown. The palace became a place where appearances were everything. Who ate with the king, who sat closest to him. These social games weren't just for show, they were a way for the king to control everything. In the end, status and wealth ruled, while governance became a distant afterthought. But let's get to the real kicker, the mistreatment of women. Behind Versailles' polished facades was a web of intrigue, manipulation, and exploitation, particularly when it came to the women at court. Louis XIV had many mistresses, and they played an incredibly influential role in the palace's politics. Take Madame de Montespan, for instance. She was one of Louis's most famous lovers, but her political influence came at a cost. These women were forced to maintain an image of perfection while secretly battling each other for the king's attention. The competition between these women was cutthroat, filled with betrayal and scandals. It was a world of vicious power struggles, where beauty, charm, and favor could make or break a woman's fate. But things got darker. The palace was rumored to be involved in the infamous affair of the poisons, where some of these women and other aristocrats were accused of sorcery and even poisoning rivals to win the king's affection. Witchcraft, betrayal, and murder. This wasn't just a place of beauty, it was a den of deception and danger. Then there's the Hall of Mirrors. You probably know it, the Hall of Mirrors, a symbol of royal power. But here's the twist. In 1919, this very hall became the site of one of the most humiliating moments in modern history. The Treaty of Versailles was signed here, officially ending World War I. But for the defeated Germans, signing the treaty in the very palace that had once symbolized French dominance was a bitter pill to swallow. This beautiful hall, once a symbol of absolute French authority, became a backdrop for the demise of the German Empire and the birth of the Weimar Republic. And the resentment that brewed in that room would eventually sow the seeds of World War II, as Germany struggled with the terms of the treaty and the humiliation it represented. So why is all of this swept under the rug? Versailles is celebrated as the pinnacle of royal splendor, a testament to the power of the French monarchy. But the hidden truths behind its creation, the crushing poverty, the manipulation of the nobility, and the exploitation of women, are often glossed over in history books. We're left with a shiny image of a majestic palace, but we rarely hear the painful context that built it. The legacy of Versailles isn't just about wealth and beauty. It's a cautionary tale about the dangers of absolute power, the inequality it breeds, the suffering it hides, and the rebellions it sparks. Versailles isn't just a place of luxury. It's a reminder of how unchecked power leads to destruction, betrayal, and, eventually, downfall. The real history of Versailles is as dark as it is dazzling, a history that the textbooks often ignore. So next time you gaze at Versailles, remember, this palace wasn't just built from gold and marble. It was built from the suffering of the French people, from the manipulation of the aristocracy, and from the sacrifices of those who were forced to sustain a world of excess while millions lived in poverty. This is the dark history of Versailles, a history they won't teach you in school, but one you need to know.